Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about my recovery from depersonalization and derealization disorder. I've had this disorder for a little bit over 7 years now, and I'm still working on my recovery from this disorder. Let's see, so to take off from my last video, I spoke about the importance of being brave and getting out of your comfort zone. And I still, I think since my last video, I've been working on being brave and doing things or pursuing things that I feel I can be passionate about, and things that make me happy, or things that I felt like would make me happy, because with this disorder, at least with myself, I feel like I lost track of the things that brought me joy, or lost track of what my priorities ought to be. And so I think when you lose yourself in that way, you start to get a lot of self-doubt, and you start to just you start to give into your disorder. And I recently replied to someone the other day, and something just clicked inside of me, and I told them, when you're unsure, just do things that you feel like would make that person in the mirror proud, and that person in the mirror that you don't recognize. And by that I mean yourself, or that self that you hope to be. So it took me over 7 years, or it has taken me over 7 years to get to this point where I feel like there's hope, hope of recovery, hope of happiness. And if I don't recover from this disorder, I at least hope to be happy. And I think at this point I am a lot happier than I've ever been. And that's because I've stopped trying to fight myself and fight with those voices in my head. Another thing I'd like to talk about are those voices in your head. Some people call them ruminating thoughts, which they sort of are, but for me they're ways to keep me trapped within myself, or they were ways to keep me trapped within myself. If I started having thoughts that were unhealthy, and thoughts that just made me feel terrible about myself, and I usually have those thoughts more when I'm going through stressful things in my life, or if someone has said something to hurt my feelings, and then I start thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it and replaying it, and I just feel worse about myself in the end. And so I had to get to a point where I told myself, no more thinking about those things when I'm, driving. So if there's ever been a situation where you're driving in your car and you have a long journey, or even just have to go to the grocery store, and you just start thinking about something in your head, and then you show up at a place and you're like, how did I get here? Or maybe you missed your exit 10 minutes ago and you never realized that you had missed your exit. I think that's because we let our mind wander too much, and we have to be in the present, and when you find yourself drifting, pull yourself back. Like, it's easy to use that drifting. I've done it so many times when I have a long journey. If it's like, let's just say a 4-hour car ride, and I just want time to pass, I just let my mind wander. But allowing your mind to wander actually does you a disservice. So instead, try to be more present in that moment. Start to pay attention to how you drive, and keep your hand on the wheel correctly, and make sure, focus on the speed limit, or focus on your surroundings, and just start observing things, and ground yourself in that moment, not in your head. And I think that's what happiness is for me lately is being in the present more. And it takes work. A lot of people have spoken to me about meditation or exercising or just things to get active, and it's really, really difficult to get to that point. We all know that exercise and eating healthier is good for us, and being more mindful of how we treat our body is good for us. But when you're dealing with this disorder and dealing with depression along with this disorder, it's hard to get out of bed sometimes, or it's hard to get the motivation and the willpower to go and go for that run. Or I still struggle with it, and if that's the case for you, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't feel bad and say I'm doing this to myself, and just be aware of what you're doing. And maybe that's not exactly what you need to be doing. If running doesn't make you happy, if meditating doesn't make you happy, maybe something else makes you happy, and that could be your form of meditation, or that could be your form of wellness. With myself, I just learned to pursue things that were things that I enjoy. And at first I sort of faked it, or at first I was just testing out the waters, and then I actually got to a point where I started to enjoy things. And I even, let's see, I lost track a little bit. I haven't eaten breakfast, so I think when the conditions are wrong, then you start to have to deal with your disorder a little bit more. But let's see, I just think that being happier is just it's a work in progress, and it's not just you with this disorder who is dealing with being happy. And so another point I'd like to make is get out of your feelings all the time. Get out of your darn head. And that's kind of what I said earlier, but in your relationships with other people, if you ever feel like you're always sacrificing for people, or it really wears down on you that other people treat you a certain way, stop thinking about how they're treating you in that way. If you don't like your situation, get out of it. And if you're helping people because you genuinely want to help them, but you're really, really tired, make the time for balance. So if you really want to help that person, then be in that moment and help them. And then you can go and take a bath or do whatever makes you happy. But don't do it if you, in your head, are feeling like nobody understands me, I do this, I do this, I do this. It's just counterproductive, and it just adds on to you internalizing everything. I realized with this disorder, I sort of became a narcissist. I was always observing and thinking, this is how someone's treating me, and I just hold it in. And that's not right. It's not fair to other people either. I think I'm also learning to create a safe space for myself. And that safe space is setting boundaries and just filling my space with goodness and taking out the negative. And sometimes that means cutting out people or cutting out things in your life. And that's okay, and there's nothing to feel guilty about with that. It's literally a change in perspective, and that's all I've been doing. A change in perspective has completely changed my life. As of now, at least, it changed my happiness level, and I hope it continues, because I think that if I keep down this road, I will recover from this disorder. I haven't given up. I'm 7 years in. Some people, like I said, some people think that this is forever, but I feel like it's a learning experience and it's a journey, and I'm okay that this is my life. Everyone lives their own life, and I'm learning from my life what I am. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. Yeah, so I'm sure there's a lot more that I haven't covered, but maybe I'll make another video in a little bit. I just feel like I'm dragging on and losing my train of thought, so maybe now's a good time to end it. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or comment. I'm not always the best at getting back to people or replying back in a timely manner, but sometimes it's difficult for me to send out that email. I read them and I think about them and I reply back, but my mind just it wants to think about a thoughtful response, and I take a lot of consideration into how I reply to people, because I would hope that they would do the same, and I'm just trying to be a more thoughtful person, because I think that is also a way of recovering from this disorder, making a conscious effort, and everything you do it knowing what you're doing, knowing what the repercussions might be, or knowing just like the outcome of things. I hope that made sense, but anywho, thank you for watching and take care.